Yeah, baby. I'm so proud of that, man. It's a long time ago, and then we wrote that song and we released it here on the Rabbit Hole. Come journey with us down the rabbit hole with Joe Canuck and Luke in control. Dude, I'll tell you, that came out so amazing. I, Hey, and I'm a little bit of rock and roll. Okay, man. I got a little countryside of me, and I've also got a little rock and roll. I don't know. Sometimes there's this struggle between the two. But good evening, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Night Rabbit Hole. And we just had a power something here. Shut the power off everywhere. Even though I got UPSs here, uninterruptible power supplies, my computer just went hiccup. And it went fine. It didn't shut off. The internet had the same thing, and the routers didn't shut off, but the internet did. So we know that it wasn't us. It was upstream and, having to do with the whole entire area. So that's why we're a little bit running late. Looks like 45 minutes late right now. But, hey, we got a good show for you tonight. We're going to talk about something that most people don't know about. Now, it's a theme that we talk often in regards to the 1940s, right? Here we are in 2025, right? 20 less than that, 15 years, right? 25, that's there. 15 years away from 2040. So we're almost 100 years out from what was going on in the 1940s. And we want to show you something that there's a repetitive process that it seems to happen that it's going to unfold. So stay with me. Wait till the end. Don't just quickly quick and end the video. Just sit back and watch, and you're going to learn something really, 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 really powerful. And the subject or the context is this: North America is part of a huge plate, right? Canada, Mexico, and the United States, Alaska, right? Not the Caribbean. The Caribbean's a whole other plate, but all the way from the Atlantic ridge out there, halfway to, Europe and back, and then right along the coast of California, which Los Angeles is not in America, man. It's in freaking the Pacific Ocean plate, a whole other plate, all the way up into San Francisco, parts of that. And then it becomes North America. And then it stops. And there's another whole portion up in the Pacific Northwest that's not even part of the Pacific plate. It's called the Juan de Fuca plate. And parts of that's out in the ocean, right? It's about, 50 or 60 miles offshore. But so there's a lot going on. We're going to tie this together. So kind of picture this, that something to the far east, which is the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, pushes North America left or westward. And as it does, because it's bent, it ain't straight, right? It's bent. It's bent up there in from Iceland. I mean, part of Iceland's part of North America, the North American plate, that is, and all the way up to the top of the world and comes back around. Even parts of Japan are part of the North American plate, right?
Yeah.
Kind of weird. But the Pacific is pushing north underneath the the North American plate from the Marianas, which is south of Philippines, and all the way to Japan. It's pushing underneath all the way to Kamchatka, which is up there at the highest part of Russia. And then as it rolls back over to the Aleutians, it's sliding underneath there too. And it's sliding all the way to Alaska. It's sliding underneath because it's moving north at 100 millimeters a year, which is, I think, about 7 to 12 inches, depending on how fast it goes. And North America is moving, most of it's moving west at about 24 millimeters a year. So about 3 inches, maybe. So when you see these things moving, you understand the dynamics of what's going on. Each little plate pushing up on each other, banging each other. And then we get these earthquakes telling us, hey, something's going on. See, most people look at earthquakes as being, it's just a big giant event. Oh, man, the earth moved. Oh, they don't understand that it's part of a huge process. And that huge process we can learn about. And tonight we're going to continue to talk about the North American plate moving west, up against the Pacific, getting buzzsawed all the way from Mexico, all the way up to the Mendocino Ridge, which is the bottom of where the Juan de Fuca is. It's getting buzzsawed. That means when North America comes over, it gets crunched up against the Pacific and it gets pushed north versus going west. It gets pushed because the Pacific Ocean is quite big and it's dense. And the edge of the plates are kind of thinner. The middle of the plates are very deep. But anyway, so it's kind of like two crunches. It's grinding it, right? Like a buzzsaw. And parts of North America are getting buzzsawed and shown or thrown north, right? So, and then when it hits the Juan de Fuca, it gets sucked up underneath the American plate. Weird stuff. But we're going to talk about the 1940s, right? Almost 100 years, 85 years ago. certain events were taking place all through the entire North American plate that showed up in Japan the same time period on the other side of the Pacific, or the other side of the North American plate, which wrapped around coming back and over. So stay tuned. Don't leave us. It's a very interesting story that's going to happen. I have with me tonight, I have Canuck, as you heard in the song. You know, Joe, Canuck, and Luke are keeping you honest. We're trying to, bring the story to you. Luke's on a mission tonight. He's got plans, so he's got to handle that. He worked all day today, so he can't be here. But he's got something to do at home too, so it's all good. It's all good. We got Canuck here and myself, and we're going to draw you a picture of about this wonderful movement, and it'll explain a lot. Why are there earthquakes? Well, Canuck, why are there earthquakes? What in your mind is why is there earthquakes?
Because the plates are moving. And that's
plates
what
are
the
moving.
Plates are. That's how the plates move, how they all jump at different places all the way in a certain amount of time going across the plate, to simplify.
Right. Well, okay, so the plates are moving, and what we live on as plates, okay, they kind of float on some gooey stuff that's underneath that's really hot, and we're kind of the crusty stuff that's kind of, cool, and where life can walk on it and not burn itself. But volcanoes tell us what's going on underneath, because they can, explode. Like 24 events this year out of Hawaii. Can you believe it? 24 events. That's crazy. And then Iceland. Now, Iceland is starting to calm down a little bit. Yeah. And then Etna's picking up. Etna just blew its wad here the other day. Oh, my gosh. Etna is in Sicily, everybody, if you don't know where that is. So lots of stuff happening across the world here. And I don't need to leave everything out, but I'm trying to stay specific to our genre, what we're going to be talking about here. So, Canuck, where do you want to start tonight in explaining the 1940s?
Yep. Well, what I'm going to do first, our last episode, we tried to figure out what was going on in Idaho. So we're going to jump off Idaho quakes tonight from 44.
Which are still quaking, by the way.
Yeah, which is still quaking now, current time. So we're going to follow up those quakes, the two biggest ones in Idaho before 2020 and 1983. The two biggest quakes in Idaho were the 2.6s that happened in 1944 and 45. So we're going to figure out what was going on with them, where they came from, and we're going to show what happened after those Idaho quakes in 44 and 45. So what we're actually going to do is look at 43 to 46 and figure it all out. And it's going to be a good story.
So you're going to lay some foundation for us to tell us, then we're going to summarize it. So, all right.
Yeah. So the first thing we're going to do is review that same map we had in the previous one. I'll put the link in there.
Okay. Putting a link inside of chat over on twitch.tv/Joe Slick Live. For those out there in Rumble and YouTube, you just enjoy the show. Yeah.
So what we're going to do here, put that in. Talk about it again.
All right. All right. So back here. Hey. What the heck? All right. Hide. Hello, everybody. I'm going to hide that. Go share my screen. Window right here. And then load that. There you go. All right, go ahead, bud.
Yep. So
I'll lead you to it.
Yeah, this is the map that we used our last episode to talk about big historical quakes in Idaho in the same area that it's swarming right now, because everybody's all concerned about why is it swarming there. Well, from this map, they showed that this same area was acting up with sixes, not only in 2020, but it was doing the same thing in the same area in July 1944 and February 1945. So like all in the same few months or a year of one another. So there's 2 6s here. So once I started digging into this more, I wanted to find out more about these quakes. So I started digging further. And I found out that back then in the mid 40s, they were trying to figure out why these 2 6s happened there. And so they started looking into that area, the geologists that were around back then, and they said, oh, this is a major mining district in this area back then. From 1939 to 53, the name of the mining company was Seaform, SEAFORM. And it had multiple mines in this area. So, of course, guess what they were thinking back then? They said, oh, we're doing crazy mining here. Zinc, silver, all sorts of crazy stuff, gold, everything.
So you're thinking the miners were thinking that they were creating the earthquakes.
Yeah, well, that's what everybody was speculating back then. So they named these quakes because they were close together. They called them the Seaform quakes, named after the mining district. So, and it's still there now. Like if you look up the mining data stuff, it's still listed as the Seaform mining district there, and it still has the mines all listed there since the 1800s, but they're inactive now, so they're not using them. They're not getting anything out now.
So why did they think that the top of the Sawtooth Fault, these major earthquakes were going on?
Well, they started digging into it there, literally, because it was the mines. And they figured out there's a fault zone there. And it goes northeast to southwest. So it's the opposite of what you would think. And then they said, well, look, this is part of the Trans-Challis seismic zone. But then they called this part where the quakes were, they renamed it Seaform seismic zone. So if you do a search on Seaform foam seismic zone in Idaho, it'll give you all this information and about the mines that are there and all that stuff, because they named it after the mines and the company that owned the mines, which is why they called those 2 quakes in 44 and 45 the Seafoam quakes. Because when I first started digging into it, I said, Seafoam, what does Seafoam got to do with here? So I had to dig deeper to find out it was all related to the mining stuff. So even back then, they were trying to figure out why there was big quakes happening there, and they were trying to figure out something to blame it on back then.
Right. I mean, these 2 quakes in February of 1945 was a 6, and 1944 was a 6-1 in July. Not too far apart. 12 miles, 13 miles apart. 2 huge quakes.
So it's
pretty interesting.
Yeah. So then I started looking up more stuff there about the mining companies. I'm going to put that in there next. So it's really interesting stuff. Because it explains why they were mining there. So it's good information. I'm going to put that in next.
So if you're over there on YouTube or on Rumble, being part of JSL over here on Twitch, twitch.tv/Joseph Live, where we have the Rabbit Hole Live as well, you will benefit by becoming part of our group here with all the links that happen live. And as you guys are live as well, but we have the links here. It's too difficult to post over there right away.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't even know how to do it on Rumble yet, but on YouTube I can do that after the fact. So,
Yeah.
So go ahead and tell us what you learned.
Yeah, so now I'm just going to read about the information here that it talks about. It's not very long, but it'll explain why they were mining there. The Seafoam Mining District, located in northwest Custer County, Idaho. Custer County is named after Custer. when I looked that part up. So everybody knows about Custer and his adventures. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is known for its historical mining activity, particularly for lead, zinc, silver, and gold. The district encompasses the Sheep Mountain area and is roughly 100 square miles in size, primarily within the drainage basin of the Rapid River. Mining activity peaked between 1939 and 53, which is, to me, is kind of funny because it's 44, 45 is right in the middle of that, with significant contributions from the Mountain King and Greyhound mines. The district is accessible only during summer months due to road closures and across Vanity Summit. And Vanity Summit is right there where all those sixes have happened. That's where it is. And it talks more because I looked more stuff up because you have to go up that road from Stanley all the way up there, and then you go on a mining road to get to where all these mines are. And the main things that they had there in those mines, they were looking for lead, zinc, silver, and gold. So it's wild stuff. Now, it talks a bit more down here where exactly it is. The Seafoam District lies just inside the eastern border of the Idaho batholith. Remnants of the original rock cover of Paleozoic sediments and Precambrian schists found in the district indicate that the batholithic rock found here is the roofward portion of the batholith. So this is basically the edge of the western Idaho shear zone. That's basically what they're saying. Which we talked about that in the last episode. It's the old ancient boundary in North America from a long time ago. So this is where they're trying to
where the ocean came up, right?
Yeah, before. Yeah.
So the ocean was right here, and all this off to the left didn't exist.
Yeah.
And we're talking not too long ago, but a minute.
And we've watched all the shows with Nick going on about the western Idaho shear zone and the batholith there, the Idaho batholith, and all that stuff. So it all ties into all the other things we've been watching. Like probably the last how many years now? 2 or 3 years. So it's pretty interesting stuff. And that just so happens where these quakes are happening. Or happened back in 44 and 45 and 2020 as well.
Hold on, Timmy. Thank you for pointing that out. What's going on here?
It's not showing on Twitch.
There it goes. Yeah. I was looking for Stanley, Idaho, and I messed it up. Yeah. So hang in there.
And so where this is, it's just up the road from Stanley. And you go up the road up there to the top to where the quake swarm is happening right now, where the 6 was in 2020 and where these 2 big quakes were in 44 and 45. Yeah. So that area where all these bigger
There's
quakes.
Stanley here. So all these quakes are happening right up here.
Yeah. And that's in this mining area, the Seafoam Mining District, which is still called there. If you look up the data, it's all still listed as the Seafoam mining area up there, which is to me super interesting. But that's usually how
Susan don't hear anything. What the heck? I don't know. It's on your end, Susan. On your end, Susan.
She doesn't hear anything.
Right. I hear everything fine.
That's weird.
Hmm.
Oh, Tim must be hearing it.
5x5, Walleye King says. Okay, we're good. So continue, bud.
Okay.
I'm leaving the maps on. I'm not going to the where you're getting the information. I'm leaving the maps on, trying to show people the area that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
Once I got the dates for these quakes and figured out more information on it, I said, well, I'm going to try and figure out why these 2 6s happened in 44 and 45. So I do what I do. I take a quake date and I go backwards a year. So we're going to start with the 44 one first. So we're going to jump back into 1943 on our wiki, and we're going to look up see if we could see any crazy quakes happening. What ones were happening?
right on, sis.
1943. So I'm going to put that link in next.
All right, and I'll show people that,
Yep.
so they can see what's going on. And do you want to start in January?
Yeah, we're going to start right in January 43.
All
Work
right.
our way up.
All right. So starting in January of 1943, boy, there's a lot of big ones. All right, here's January. Ecuador had a 6-1. Peru had a 5. Going to February, Peru had a 7. Mexico, Guerrero, which is north of Oaxaca, and that had a 7.4. So it moved from Peru, moved north, hit Guerrero, Mexico, which is Acapulco, 7.4. And then the Sandwich Islands down below the very far end of South America hit a 7. Chile came in with a 7.2, so it went from very bottom to the Tarapaca, Chile, to 7.2. And then I don't know where Caroline Islands is.
Caroline Islands is down below Guam and all them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In April, the Sunda Strait. Wow, I didn't know Japan owned those. Wow. Sunda Strait, that's between modern day, it's in Indonesia, modern day Java, and Sumatra.
You gotta remember, I'll explain that. 43, Japan.
During World War II, yeah.
Yeah, Japan controlled.
All right.
Indo. So that's why you see the Japan Empire of Japan on here for a bunch of different ones.
Right. And it just so happens right now that area is activated. But I don't want to take you away. Peru popped with a 6.5. Chile popped with an 8.1. Coquimbo. Oh, that's Central Chile.
Yeah.
Now, Central Chile, the month before, Tarapaca had a 7.2. And then an 8.1. And Peru, a 6.5, which is north of Chile, right?
Yeah.
That had in February, that had a 7. So you see Chile and Peru bouncing back and forth. Wow.
Yeah, look at the next one. Marianas.
The Mariana Islands, Japan, at that time, now it's North American, American, had a 7 and a 6.8. Oh, Honshu had a 6.8.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the very bottom of the today's modern Philippine plate. Okay. And mixed with, I think it's the Asian plate. What's that Asian plate name?
Different ones. A mirror plate.
Yeah, mirror plate. Yeah. Which is, it takes like a half of China.
Yeah, that makes the triple junction at.
Yeah. The triple junction being the North American, the Pacific, and the Philippine plate down the bottom. Okay.
Going down.
Yeah. May, Panama pops with a 6.8. So what you're hearing is Sandwich Islands, Chile, Peru, bang, 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 boom, right? Then it comes back Panama, which is north of all that, right? North of Colombia. As you're reaching out, it's the bottom of Central America. Bang with 6.8. Then Chile says hello again with a 6.2. However, the bottom part or the top part of the Philippine plate again pops in Luzon 7.2. So two big ones on top of the Philippine plate, the modern day Philippine plate. You got the Panamanian plate. You got the Chile bouncing around. And then the Philippines go kabam with a 7.8. And then Mexico, bang, 6.5 off the West Coast. They don't say where. Boy, this thing's really bouncing. Wow, June. And we just barely started. June.
It's going to make sense.
Sumatra comes in with a 7.4. Bam. Comes in with a 7.8. Kablooey. Then Honshu, which is the bottom of Japan, which is the top of the Philippine plate. Not the North American, but the bottom of it, right? That's the same maritime continent, so to speak, of all the islands in Indonesia and Taiwan and Halmahera and Sulawesi, modern day Sulawesi, and then you have Sumatra and Java, and between those is the Sunda Strait. That's where Krakatau happened, right? Yeah. So back in the 1800s. And then Japan, Southern Sumatra, 7.8. Holy smokes. And then you got on top, the bottom of Japan, where Nagasaki and all that stuff is, 7.2. Jeez. Hey, God was telling these sons of bitches to stop the war, and they were just going nuts because they got their butt kicked in the 40s. Japan, Honshu again, 6.5. Honshu again, 6.4. This is all happening in June. Yeah, and then China comes in with a 5. And then Celeb C, which is, again, that's the Indonesia, modern day Indonesia, right? And that's north of Java. It pops with a 6.5 and a 6.8. So you've got Sumatra banging. You got Java banging. You got the seas all up above banging. And you got Philippines banging. You have the bottom of Japan banging. Holy smokes, that whole area is going nuts. Then in July, Peru comes up, bam, 6.8. And then we go back to Java with a 7. My land, what's going on over there? And then, unfortunately for Puerto Rico, a 7.7 and a 6.5. What's happening today is a ton of activity on Puerto Rico. I can't call it. I'm not going to call it. I'm just saying it is so active. So, it is crazy.
So you have to remember what we're doing right now is seeing what was happening the year before, the first 6.
Right.
In Idaho.
So what we're seeing lots of pushing, right? You're seeing the western part of the maritime continent, right? The northern part or the southern portion of North American continent over in Japan, right? The Honshu, that's the bottom of the islands, right? Yeah. And we got Philippines, right? All that stuff starts going bang, 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 bang. At the same time, South America is going kaboom, 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 all the way up into Mexico. Boom, 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 right?
Yeah.
Now we've got Puerto Rico. Huge quake. 7.7.
So North American Caribbean plate boundary.
And now the Caribbean is starting to move because of what's happening in South America. The South American plate, right? That's the Cocos and the South American plate, which goes all the way back to the
it's pretty
Atlantic.
How it works. You can see it just in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Here. So
then we got Vanuatu, New Zealand, and then Guatemala, which is just above Panama. Remember, Panama just popped. Here we are, Guatemala, 6.8. What was the Panama? 6.8. That power is moving north along the Cocos Plate, the interior of the Cocos Plate, which is the boundary of the Caribbean Plate, which on the other side, the western side of the Cocos Plate, is the Pacific Plate, which is the EPR. Like the Eastern Pacific Rise goes all the way up through the Gulf of Mexico, not Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of California, all the way up, right up into San Diego area. So it's moving. Went from Panama to Guatemala. Boom, boom, boom. Crazy.
Keep going.
Now I got you, bud. Now we're into September, right? Japan. I don't know where Tori is. Oh, Honshu, region of Honshu again. Honshu pops at another 7. So that's the very bottom of the main islands of Japan. Boom, another 7. We got New Zealand and the Loyalty Islands. Guatemala, again, 6.8. Remember, it just had a 6.7. Crazy. And then we go into October. Nagano, prefecture of Honshu, another 6. Greece, 6.2. Watch out.
Yeah.
In November, Southern Alaska, 7.6. So high 6s were bouncing all the way through mid portion of Central America. We haven't heard anything in Mexico yet, but central part of Central America, right? Guatemala, right? Big pressure. Now we have at the top, right? Japan at the very bottom, or at the top of that plate, which is a Philippine plate, was banging and saying, hello, 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 boom, 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 boom. Then all of a sudden, we've got a push in Alaska, a 7.6. Then back to the East Indies, the Indonesian, right? Sumatra, Java, boom, 7.7. Crazy. On top of that, on the top of Japan, this time it's on the border of North America and the Pacific, the western edge, 6.8. Right after the Alaska, southern Alaska. That is the border of the Pacific and North America at the top. But as you go counterclockwise, you come down and then you hit the Kurils, right? Yeah, the Kurils, 6.8. 7.6 down to 6.8. Japan, bottom of the North American plate, and where it meets the Philippine plate and it meets the Pacific plate on the east, bang, another huge quake, 7.0.
And south coast of Honshu, off south coast of Honshu, is basically Nankai Trough.
We call that the Nankai Trough, yes. Then Taiwan, just 1,000 miles down the western edge of the Philippine plate is Taiwan. Bang, 6.5. Then all the way down again, down in Sumatra, Java, down there. Boom, 7.1. Crazy what's going on.
Next one, Turkey joins.
Then Turkey's already hit. I kind of skipped it. So because it's kind of interior, I'm trying to watch the edges of the plates. Then we come back to Kamchatka, north of Japan, west of Alaska, the northwestern part of the Pacific plate, which dives underneath the North American plate at Kamchatka. Boom, 7.6. Then down in South America, Argentina, 6.4. Then we get into December, right? New Guinea, right? Now, New Guinea is north of Australia. It is east of Indonesia. Okay. PNG, New Guinea, right in that area, 7.2. And it just had a 7 just a month ago, I guess. Then Chile, Tarapaca, Central Chile again, 7.0. Then the Empire of Japan, Taiwan, 6.8. Now we have something very interesting. Remember Guatemala, right? It's moving up. It's moving up into the armpit of the Central America, where Central America hits Mexico, Oaxaca, 6.0. And just below the Caribbean plate, on the edge of the western edge of the Caribbean plate, Ecuador, 6.2. Colombia, just north of that, 6.5. So the Caribbean plate's adjusting to what's been going on because South America's pushing north. The eastern edge, remember Puerto Rico? Yeah, pushing west. Now Ecuador's responding, 6.2, 6.5. This is all happening within a year. Then New Guinea comes back with a 7 on just above Australia. That's just 1 year. Then we go to 44. Am I right?
And that's what we're going to next. Alrighty.
Yeah. So coming into January of 44, Sumatra again down there, right? 6.6. The bottom of the maritime continent. All these bunch of little islands are being pushed by Australia, pushed north, right? Australia is actually diving below them and pushing these islands up out of the depths, rising them up into the sky, right? Pushing them out of the depths of the water, making them rise as the Australian plate's diving down. Now, Mexico comes in. The second Mexico quake. First, we had Oaxaca going north. We got now Guerrero, a 6.6. Power moving from 6.6, still moving north towards North America along what? Now, that's the eastern edge of the Cocos Plate. We still got to go a few hundred more miles before it gets to the Pacific and North American plate. But it's rising. It's moving north, that edge. So the Caribbean plate is shifting. It banged Ecuador. It banged Colombia. It banged the Cocos Plate. And now it's moving north. Argentina again, 7.0. Argentina's like caught in the middle. They don't know what to do. February. Hokkaido, Japan. South coast of Hokkaido. That's the big island of Japan. 6.6. And now we have pressure coming out of Alaska. Moving south. Canada. Yukon Territory. 6.5.
So this is after the previous year, 43, 7.6, South Alaska.
Mm-hmm. Empire Japan, Hualien County, Taiwan again, 6.5. It's not done. The Philippine plate's banging. It's being pushed up against the Eurasian plate. Boom. Peru comes back with a 7. The Puno region. I don't know where the hell that is, but it's down there. Then we have the Maldives out there in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Comes in at a 7.1, which is west of Sumatra. They're the ones that saw flight, MH370 going south. They saw it. They saw the plane flying just above the water. Whoops, you didn't hear that from me. March, China.
Xinjiang
province, 6.9. China, Xinjiang, 7.1. So that's the Eurasian plate banging against what? the Philippine plate, right?
Yeah.
Banging interiorly, right? Then again, the Dutch East Indies and the Banda Sea, which is the maritime continent, Sulawesi, and that area down there being spanked with a 7.5 and a 6.4. Why? Why are they down there getting so jostled about? Because the Australian plate's getting banged at the bottom, pushing north, banging those maritime continents around. And what's happening over in Chile and Peru, pushing the Cocos plate, which pushes the East Pacific rise, which causes the East Pacific rise to make more land, which pushes the Pacific westward and north and shoving it all. And that's where you get Fiji, you get Vanuatu, which I didn't talk about. It already went off several times. You get PNG, comes off all the time. You have the Loyalty Islands, which is banging again because the Pacific is moving northeast, pushing underneath all these little lands because that, and on top of the Australian plate moving north. So both of these, Pacific plate and the Australian plate pushing north, banging this maritime continent, which is all right, modern day Indonesia, right? And it's Sumatra, Java, and all the little islands in Timor, and then it moves north. You got Halmahera Hara on the right, which is the bottom of the Philippine plate. Up on the left, you get Sulawesi and that kind of starfish kind of looking kind of islands out there. Then you get into Taiwan at the midsection of that plate, and on the right you have Guam, right? And then at the top you have all the Japanese islands that are at the very peak, and then you have the North American plate on the top of that, and it rises up all the way up through Kamchatka, up over through Alaska, and down the west coast. So this is how things are moving. Bang, bang, boom. Then in April, Nicaragua again. So Central America saying hello with a 6-0, and Fiji 6-5. Empire Japan, West Papua, Dutch Indies again. So 6.8. It's a foreshock to a 7.6 right after. Bam, bam. The next day. So north of Australia.
It's going crazy.
East of Java, all those little islands, east of Timor, into Papua, right? Western Papua, which north of that would be Halmahera Hara, right? There's a triple junction out there, or several of them. It's being pushed, so we can see a northward push, huge, massive northward push of Australia pushing underneath and driving all these islands north, right? So, and we have the Pacific Ocean, which is driving underneath Fiji, underneath New Zealand, which was on here several times, I didn't say, underneath Samoa, right? But Samoa is on the Pacific side. All these other ones are on the Australian plate, being pushed, and it's being lifted up and shoved northeastward because of what's happening in South America, being shoved northeast, pushing the Pacific plate northeast, shoving up Chile, up into Peru, up into Ecuador, up into Colombia, up into Panama, up into Guatemala, up into southern Mexico, or Nicaragua, which is just south of Guatemala. So, and that's still, being affected, eh? So all that shoving is kind of pushed north, and then you have on the western side of the Pacific Ocean, you got all this huge amount of pressure pushed up from the Papuas, from the central part. Then on the far left or the western side, you got Java and Sumatra. You got India You have China up there. All that being pressured by something that's shoving that stuff up in the northeast section. And then we get into May. Colombia comes back and says 6. Fiji comes in a 7.3. New Guinea. We just talked about that. New Guinea, 7.1. And here's that special little number, Greece, 6.2. Greece is a kind of a funky little thing. We got to find out what I forget what's her name. She knows all about these. Then we get into June. Peru bangs with a 6.2. The Loyalty Islands, which is west of Vanuatu, which is west of Fiji, which is the southern edge of the Pacific Plate, being shoved underneath and lifting up this area. And the Australian Plate being shoved underneath, lifting up New Caledonia at the Loyalty Islands area. Then Mexico again, Chiapas at the bottom of Mexico. First we had Oaxaca, then we got Chiapas. Bam, 7.0. We went up from Panama to Guatemala to Nicaragua. Now we're into Mexico, 7.0. Boom. Big pressure shoving north. July. Samoa, right there, just northeast of Fiji, northeast of Hungatonga. And
here's our target, the next one.
Yeah.
Southern Idaho, 6.1.
And now we see Idaho. Why? Because some pressure being shoved right through Mexico. Idaho is waking up. Boom, 6.1.
And also Puerto Rico had the big ones too.
Yeah, and Puerto Rico. Then Argentina, way down south, another 6. That tells us that the South America is being shoved northeast, eh? Then the Fox Islands, which is as the Aleutians kind of dip all the way down and lift back up. The Fox Islands are way up there. Remember, Kamchatka was bouncing. Southern Japan was bouncing. The Kurils were bouncing, right? And now again in Alaska, Southern Alaska, and now Fox Islands out there. On top of that was Idaho. There's a few places missing, and we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
August.
I'm going to keep going.
Southern Alaska, 6.3. Boom. The Mariana Islands, that's Guam, 6.9. Honshu, Japan, the very bottom of Japan, pops with a 6.9. Okay, the Marianas, that pressure moved. The Pacific Ocean shoving up against the Philippine plate. Bam, bam. And get this. Chiapas, Mexico, southern Mexico, again, 6.0. What's next? I don't know. Vanuatu, out there near Fiji, 6.8. September.
Look at this.
New York City or New York State, the Cornwall Messina earthquake, 1944, 5.5. Northern New York, which is what's that lineament that goes right through Canada, right down the St. Lawrence, the St. Lawrence lineament.
Yeah.
Bang.
And if you go directly west from where that was, you'll never guess what it lines up with.
Idaho.
Yeah.
You see what's going on, everybody?
Yeah.
Can you see?
Because now
all of the North American plates being shoved, right? The North American plate, the South American plate, the Australian plate, all converging together, pushing northeast, right? Even Sumatra, even Java, even China resisting because it's on the Eurasian plate. Everything's being shoved up in that corner. right? Loyalty Islands, New Caledonia, Papagan 6.5. Ethiopia, Africa 6.0. Malacca Sea, right? Hey, Malacca Sea, that's Halmahera. That's north of PNG, right? 6.6. Java again, which is just south of that, 6.8. Hey, Kamchatka at the north of Japan, right? The edge of North America, right? Meeting the Pacific, 7.2. Then China, Xinjiang again, out there in the middle of nowheres, pops with a 6.8. Why? Because there's an ancient boundary that divides China in half. October, Guatemala says hello with a 6.5. The Caribbean plate's not done. It's still feeling the pressure of being shoved. Then Japan, Hokkaido, that's the northern big island of Japan, 7.0. Boom. As the southern part, Honshu was banging for so much, and we got Kamchatka banging a couple of times. I mean, really banging. And then now Hokkaido bangs real hard with a 7, right? Australia, New Ireland, New Guinea, shoving straight north again toward Japan, 6.9, right? And what's bringing in that pressure? Coming from the east, coming out of Fiji, coming in through Vanuatu, coming through the Santa Cruz Islands, over to and up and through Loyalty Islands from the very bottom, right? Turkey is feeling pressure because it's moving because of all this stuff that's happening out in the east of Turkey, shoving. Finally, it's starting to release on that end, 6.8. Samoa, 6.8. The Pacific Ocean diving down below. The Empire of Japan, the Dutch Indies again, Halmahera, just west of PNG, 6.6. And then we have Tibet. That's north of India, okay, everybody? 6.8. Java, Sumatra, leads in through Myanmar. Today's Myanmar, right? Burma. Goes right into Tibet. Pops with a 6.8. Then back over to the eastern side. Ecuador comes with a 6.7. Tibet pops again, 6.5. So both ends are popping, boom, 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 back and forth. November, Japan, the Taiwan Islands, Dutch East Indies again. For sure. Sulawesi, which is the starfish-looking thing that's west of Halmahera. 6.8, which is south of Taiwan. Then here we go, the Santa Cruz Islands, moving into PNG, right? From the east. And then Vanuatu's pushing back up to Santa Cruz. 7.2, a 7. Fiji saying, I want in too. 6.8. It's made room for all these big, huge, giant quakes because all that huge push to the northwest, sorry. We get into December. The Marianas feel it,
6.
right? 6.8.
The next one is our second last.
Yeah, I got you.
Big one.
Yeah. So what we got is moving northeast, right? Through Sulawesi, Santa Cruz, Vanuatu, Fiji, all, pushing as it breaks. It's moving northwest. All of these.
Now,
and then backing that up is the Marianas with a 6.8.
Everybody to note this right now. Idaho had a 6 the same year that Nankai Trough went off in 44. So this is important for later.
Right. And that's the same time period. Okay. Now we have an 8.1 in Honshu. Right? 8.1. Why? All that stuff moving northwest. Boosh. Right? Huge, massive, major destruction was going on. So many people lost their lives because of this 8.1, 1944. December, right? I think the war was over. I don't know when it actually ended. I think it's in
No, well,
June.
it's still 45 officially.
Yeah,
so
45. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
at the
hey,
time.
in Honshu, not only did Honshu catch an 8.1, but we dropped the bomb on Honshu, right? In 45.
45, yeah.
Yeah. Honshu again, 6.5. Vanuatu, that pressure still, when there's room to be made, it slides, right? All that pressure from Sumatra pushing north, right? All that Sulawesi pushing north. All the pressure being released way up there in Kamchatka, being shoved underneath North America as the Pacific plate moves northwest. Alaska shoving it too, saying, hey, we're Pacific Ocean's diving underneath us, the North American plate, creating all this. The Adrena Islands up in the far left or the western side of Alaska, I believe it is. Southwestern Alaska, yes, 6.5, right?
So while everyone was preoccupied with World War II, the plates were still moving.
They were moving huge.
Yeah.
Empire Japan, Honshu again, 6.7. China responding with a 6.6. New Caledonia, the Loyalty Islands down there, getting pushed up by the Australian plate, shoving it north. And then Chile says, hello, I'm still here, 6.5. New Guinea pops again, 6.5. New Guinea again, 6.8. Boom, boom, all being shoved north. And we got to go to 45, but this story is not over. Going to 45 now, everybody. Can you feel it? Can you see the intensity of it? Now, get this. On top of that, the Atlantic. Put your eyes over there in the Atlantic Ocean, eh? North of Canada, up there by Iceland,
And
Canada, the Baffin Bay. Boom!
way up top.
6.5. So what just happened? The northeastern part of the North American plate just got rocked. How's it going to respond? Well, let's find out. Honshu, aftershocks, killed a ton of people. 6.6. The DR. Hey, everybody knows about the DR. Remember what has happened over there in Puerto Rico? This is a year later, everybody. A 6. Boom. So the Caribbean plate's being knocked around. Why? Because up on the North American edge, oh yeah, Canada just said hello. The far eastern side of Canada. Ooh. February. Loyalty Islands again. New Caledonia. Loyalty Islands. Bang, bang. 7-0. 7-2.
There's our target. The next one. So
I got you. 7-2. Japan. Honshu. Again. Being shoved northeast. And guess what tells us something? Right? Remember what just happened out here in the DR? A 6. And also, North American plate on the eastern side, 6.5. And remember, New York? Oh, yeah.
44.
Yeah. Remember that?
5.
And Puerto Rico was banging? Oh, yeah. Honshu, 7-2. Then Idaho. Again, Idaho comes back 6-0. Why is Idaho being banged? Why? Because the Caribbean plate's being banged. And the eastern part of the Atlantic is pushing which way? West. Shoving the Pacific Ocean, the Pacific plate, up against the North American plate, banging along the West Coast. These are all the most significant quakes. There are other quakes that aren't even listed.
Yeah, because in the wikis, they're giving us 6s and above and notable like mid to high 5s, which is why the New York one was on there. From
get this. South Dakota just came in with a 2.6 just now.
Well,
all right.
I bet if you went across, they're all on the
Well, you know, hey,
line.
get this.
Tragic.
In that same month, we're looking at February of 45. Japan Honshu 6.4. The Volcano Islands, which just is south east, which is the edge of the Philippine plate that reaches up into the triple junction, which be Tokyo, right? That's where the triple junction all meets. The Philippine plate at the bottom, the Pacific plate on the right, and the North American plate at the north, right? All these things, right?
Yep.
Volcano Islands, 7.2. Japan has been rocked and rolled, pushed and kicked and bomb dropped on the dang thing, right? Philippines coming with a 6.8. Still more pressure shoving north. Honshu again, 7.2. This is no joke what's happening over there. Something's being pushed. Something is shoving the Pacific plate, shoving up against the Philippine plate, which is knocking the crap out of the Japanese, right?
Yeah.
Colombia comes back. Western Colombia. Guess what that is? That's the Caribbean plate. Yeah. 6.8. The bottom of the Caribbean plate. Remember, we had Philippines. We had the DR. We had Panama. We had Guatemala. We had Nicaragua. We had southern Mexico, Oaxaca. We had Chiapas. We had Guerrero, right? We had 2 quakes up in Idaho, and we had a quake in New York. It's the movement. Push. North, northeast. Everything's being shoved. Everything's banging on each other.
Yeah. So North America right now is trying to catch up, to simplify to all the things that are happening below it.
So Kamchatka again in what are we in April? Kamchatka again. 2 huge quakes. 6.0, 6.8, and a 7.0. Right? That's that far corner. That's where the Pacific Ocean diving towards. It's going underneath the North American plate. Right? New Caledonia, because there's a little pressure release. New Caledonia, Loyalty Islands, which is just above Australia, is slipping underneath, right? Then get this. Mexico. The city of Mexico. Right? Central Mexico. 6.5. That's the North America, baby. That's not North America. That's the American plate. Right? The Caribbean plate's below. Well below. This is several hundred miles north of the border of the Caribbean plate and the North American plate. This is interior, like Idaho. It's interior. Japan, the Celeb Sea, again, that's down in Indonesia. Today's Indonesia, right? Just above Sulawesi. Then we got PNG again, 6.8. 6.8 in the Celeb Sea. Huge push going north, due north. May. Banda Sea, which is same down there. Banda Sea is right there in Sulawesi area. And Halmahera, and which is Malacca Sea, right? That's down south, Timor area. Get this. Northern California, 6.4. What? What happened there? Central America got banged real hard. The pressure went to the coast. Why? Because of what? What was happening out there in the Atlantic? We've said this over and over and over and over again. You want a quake in California, it starts out there in the Atlantic. It moved through Baffin Bay. It moved through the Caribbean plate. It moved through Mexico. And whammy, you got the DR had a 6.0 in January, right?
And Pierre.
And Idaho had a 6. It's interesting how Idaho and California are connected. Very interesting, right? We had Mexico, And then in the next month, in May, we had off the coast of Northern California, 6.4. Then Honshu breaks again. Southern Japan, 6.6. June, Panama comes back with a 7. Now India gets involved because of all that stuff that's happening in Sulawesi and Timor, modern stuff, right? PNG, moving through Java, moving up through Sumatra, up and over into India. You remember we had Nepal that was banging too 2 years ago? Yeah. India, 6.5.
Yeah.
Get this. Hey, the Gulf of California possible to 6.7. Northern California and the Gulf. Boom. California is being squeezed. What's going on? Next thing we know, we got to have a Vancouver or something. Something's got to break up there, right? Colombia, 6.5. The Marianas again, right? Now the U.S. owns it. Used to be part of Japan. Now the U.S. owns it. It's a 7.1. Sumatra, again, Japan's owning it now. Still 6.7. It ain't done. August. Off the coast of Taiwan, moving north. Get this. Here it is. Canada. The western side. Northern. I just said it. 6.2. Canada. Haida Gwaii. It's going to get once you start to see this, it keeps going. It keeps going. It's incredible. The Ryukyu Islands, Ryukyu Islands in Japan. That's the western side of the Philippine plate that meets up there in Japan. Peru says hello with a 6.8. Honshu again, 6.7. Japan hasn't stopped through this whole moment. We're now 3 years in, and Japan's getting the crap kicked out of it. Not only in a war, but the world is saying, I don't like you. Stop it. Vanuatu, 6.9. September. New Zealand says hello with a 7.5. The Southern Island. Whoosh.
Yeah.
Here we are, Greece. Eastern Mediterranean Sea. 6.5. Look out, California. Australia, 6.6. That's up there in PNG. Now it's moving through Romania, moving through Europe, right? Remember how it hit Turkey? And it's been a minute. Came out of China, moving its way through, right?
Yeah.
Romania starting to say hello. The Euro Asian plate starting to move west. We only had one Congo quake that kind of shoved Africa much, but it's all been far left. Here's Congo. Look at, I just said Congo. Bam, there's a Congo quake, a 6.0. What the heck's going on here? Right? And then Chile again, southern Chile. Santiago, it's actually central Chile, 7.1. Japan, Hokkaido, which is the northern part of Japan, the one that looks like the hatchet at the very, very top, 6.6. Then New Guinea again. What the heck's going on with New Guinea? 7.0. Guess what's been happening over the last 6 months here today? New Guinea hasn't stopped. I mean, it's always banging. Bam, bam, bam. It had a 7 not too long ago, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
China making room for movement across Europe.
Hebei province is where Wuhan is.
Yep. 6.2. That's east of Japan, everybody. East of Japan, getting banged. Boom. Right? 6.2. October. El Salvador, 6.1. That's Central America again. Then we're back over in the Urals because the Pacific plate's not done, and it's not done moving. Then we come back down to Guerrero, right? El Salvador pushes Guerrero, Mexico, 6.1 to a 6.5. And Guatemala in the middle comes in with a 6.8. Bam! And then we have Indonesia. Now it's Malacca Sea. That's Halmahera. That's Sulawesi, right between the two, south of the Philippines, right? 6.5.
Yeah, the next one is good.
Vanuatu, 6.8. Right? We know what's been happening there. Look at this. 6.8, Kodiak, Alaska. Right? We
So
had
this-
Southern Alaska
this is
Bang.
right after
We had
our 2 Idahos.
Yeah, we had
Sorry, 45.
Southern Alaska Bang. We had Central Alaska Bang. We had far Western Alaska Bang. Now we come back to the eastern side where Kodiak is, and that bangs after 2 Idaho quakes, after Baffin Bay quake, after all that stuff shoving up from the north, the south from Mexico, all that pressure in the Caribbean, shoving, boom, 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 pushing that Pacific plate underneath, right there at Kodiak, all the way over to Kamchatka and underneath Japan and the Kurils, which is between Japan and Kamchatka. All that's being shoved. Poof. Fiji again comes back with a huge 7, super deep at 500 depth plus, right? Barely see those kind of things anymore. Once in a while we do. So we know that way, way, way down in the muck that the plates dive underneath, right? The Pacific plate underneath Fiji is getting shoved into the next layer of the plate. What do you call it? Mantle. Banging on the bottom of the mantle, bottom of the upper mantle at 600 kilometers down there. Bam. I don't know how far that is. I think 500 miles, maybe 400 miles, right?
Yeah.
Down into there. Bam. That's happening. And then we haven't heard from it in a while. The stands. I was wondering what happened to all the stands. They haven't been talking. But guess what? India off the coast of Pakistan, Karachi area. Bam. 8.1. 1945, the Balochistan quake caused over 4,000 deaths, mainly due to a tsunami. Yeah.
So she's going crazy back in 45.
Yeah. In December, we got Australia again pushing up against up north against the in New Guinea, right? Then we got Europe again, Romania coming in with a 6. Then Turkey, which is still being pushed by that China quake, right? The huge China quake being pushed by the Pakistan quake, right? They don't even know how big it was. It was big. Killed a lot of
seismic
people.
intensity 8, so that's pretty big.
Right. Yeah. And because a 6.7 does a 6, right?
Yeah.
Venezuela, right? Trinidad, Tobago, Columbus Channel, right? That's the eastern edge of the Caribbean plate, the bottom corner, the southern eastern edge, 6.5. Right? We have Puerto Rico, we have the DR. Those are up in the northeastern side. Now the southeastern side. Why? What was going on? We had Colombia banging twice, right? We had Ecuador banging twice, right? We had Mexico. We had Panama. We had Salvador. We had Guatemala. All banging, bang, 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 right? Now the little island regions on the eastern side of the Caribbean plate start to say hello. 6.5. I'll bet you there's a volcano that went off around then too. Pretty close to that channel.
Yeah.
Then PNG again, bang, bang. PNG don't stop, everybody. 6.7 and 7.8. You're talking super crazy, crazy, crazy times in the mid 1940s. And you can see why it's super, super interesting to see the push and the movement of our plates.
Yeah. And
You have
now
anything?
we're jumping to 46 now.
1946. All right.
And we're going to stop at the end of 46, but
All right. We'll stop at end of 46.
for now.
There's a lot. Hey, there's a lot happening this year. 1946, everybody. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, January, right? Guatemala comes over to 6. Vanuatu says 6.9. You know where Vanuatu is, right? That's coming out of Fiji, right? Coming out of Samoa into Fiji, right across, coming down and up from the loyalties, coming up through into Vanuatu, 6.9. China again. Heilongjiang province, 6.8.
Yeah, so China's still rocking.
Yeah. And get this, 6.6 in the middle of freaking Gulf of Alaska. How many bangers did we have in Alaska? It started in southern Alaska. It went to the center of the Aleutians. It went to the far west.
Here too.
Yeah, it went to the far west, and then it came back, and then it went to the capital, whatever. And Alaska's been being pushed all over the place. Over on the east side, I had Canada pushing, right? Baffin Bay pushing, right? Then we had Mexico pushing the hell out of us, and then we had the Caribbean plate just doing its thing. It's like it's trying to get out the dang way because there's a lot of pressure moving in, right? Then we got China again, 6.8, Gulf of Alaska 6.6, and the New Guinea again 7.2, and Vanuatu again. I told you it don't stop. PNG and Vanuatu don't stop, right? Don't hear much about Fiji, but we did hear a 1.7, very deep one. But hello. Then Switzerland. Very, very strange quake happened in Switzerland, I think.
And there was no CERN.
And yeah, there's no CERN, everybody. So, 6.0. Canton of Bern. I don't know where the hell it is, but,
Bern,
it's in Switzerland, everybody, in the mountains.
Which is
February.
Not far from where CERN is now.
Yeah, far east of Alaskan islands again along the chain. That's the second time it pops. 6.8. Both sides of Alaska banging. Boom, boom. Why? Because the Pacific Ocean's shoving underneath on both ends. Right? Next thing you got to see, well, it don't happen until 64? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big quake in Alaska.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Anyway, we're not there yet. We're only in 1946.
Yeah, we're not right now.
Uranistan, it had some little quakes. France, a 6.0. I think it's the biggest quake in France I've ever seen. Oh, that's Algeria. Yeah. North Africa. Okay, get this, everybody. North Africa is very significant. Why? Because the African plate being shoved up into the Eurasian plate, right, through Europe, banging. And when that stuff we see it squirt out westward, and we're going to see something happen. Turkey, again, that's the start of the Mediterranean, right? We should see some activity. I don't know what's coming up. We should see some activity through Greece. We should see it through maybe even France again. We should see it in Spain. Should maybe even Portugal. But we're going to see it in North Africa. Yeah. Turkey, 5.6. Mexico, Chiapas, the bottom of Mexico, right at the beginning of the armpit, 6.0. Argentina, Jujuy, which is usually big, deep quakes. And 270 is the depth. Central California.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
That one they call the Walker Pass earthquake. That's where they think it was. So
Walker Pass.
Between Bakersfield and Ridgecrest, basically.
Yeah. Let me tell you, there was a quake. And I'm going to jump in here. Where the hell's that map? I'll just do it this way, USGS. I want to point out something. It wasn't too long ago, if you all remember, that we had some quakes in a little town called Walker.
Yeah.
Right? Up 395. And they were calling it, here's Lake Tahoe. They were calling it some funky ass name. Right? That that wasn't even there. It was somewhere out here that we're calling it.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, Merkleyville. They were saying Merkleyville, right? The earthquake wasn't in Merkleyville. The earthquake what was in down here in right here, Walker. And I don't know how large it was. I have to look it up. Please be patient with me because I find this pretty interesting.
Yeah, the one we just had recently, whatever year that was it was a 6, I think.
Was it a 6? Okay, I'll look it up as
a little bit less than what this one was.
All right, so I'm gonna do it a 21. And I'm gonna do custom. I'm gonna find out right in this area right there. Use this, and then go ahead and search. There it is. They call it the Antelope Valley, but it was Merkleyville when it was coming up, and I was arguing it because I said, it's not even close to Merkleyville. All right? Get this. That's Central California. Place called Walker. Back to our story.
Yeah.
Central California, 6.3. Huh? Get this. Cuba comes in at a 6.0 after that.
So Caribbean again.
Then, Caribbean again. Indonesia, Sumatra, 6.8. Right? Told you about that, how that's working. And we're into April now. Unimak, Alaska. 8.6.
And that quake is the one that sent the tsunami to Hilo, Hawaii that killed all the people. And that's why we have the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. Because of that big one. Back in 1946.
Killed 167 people and a lot of children. Because they were in school and this wave just came in. Killed them. I think the wave on shore was some 40 plus feet. They have a mountainside where they have it marked at the level of that tsunami. And it's way the hell up there.
Yeah.
Crazy. Here we are. Greece. What? California just went. Right? 6.3. Yeah. There's a Greece. What is it about California and Greece? I don't know. Anyway, New Guinea comes again, 6.9. I don't know where the Minatawa Islands are. Oh, Sumatra, 7.3. Sumatra hasn't stopped, everybody. New Guinea hasn't stopped, everybody.
Still going in all these years that we're looking
at. The Caribbean
comes
in with a Martinique comes in with a 6.3. The Caribbean is still kicking. Hey, are you starting to see it now? We've done this for 4 years. Are you? 6.0, Turkey. That's the eastern edge of the
everybody's going to be worn out by the time we get to the end of 46.
I know, right? Taiwan has a 6.3. Mexico, Oaxaca, southern Mexico, 7.1. Pressure moving north. Sarum Sea. I'm getting tired.
Well, we just got to get to the end of 46.
I'm working on it. Sarum Sea, 6.4. Boom! Giant kabam! Vancouver Island. Didn't I say that all we needed was Canada pop? Now, it did on the eastern side. Now it's on the western side. Again. Vancouver Island, 7.3. Oaxaca just had a 7.1.
That one, they fell all the way to Portland, Oregon, if you read about it.
Yeah.
And it was on the eastern inside.
The inside of the island.
Of the island.
Not on Haida Gwaii, which is the next island north. Yeah, this is on the big island, right in the middle on the eastern side. This is the only one I've seen happen on USGS, but there are other records from other people. Honduras, right? Central America, 6-0. The Banda Sea, which is north of Java, and northeast anyway. Next to PNG, west of PNG, 6-5. Guatemala, again, Central America, Caribbean Plate, 6-5.
And it's not in our list that's on here, but Puget Sound had a 6-ish also, but they don't have it in this list.
They don't have it in the list.
February 1946, Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
So when you look up Puget Sound quakes, it's listed when you do a search for it.
Yeah, I think we were doing that yesterday or the day before.
Yeah. So it's crazy stuff.
Sorry about that.
I don't even have that one in here.
New Zealand comes with a 6-5 and a 6-0. In July, Vanuatu says a 7. Veracruz, which is on the Gulf of America side, where Mexico, in my opinion, because of the chicken leg trying to break itself free of the Caribbean plate. It's where the Caribbean plate meets Mexico, cuts across the southern portion of Mexico, where the what's that little section called? What do you call that thing? Ding 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 ding. Right down here, I'll tell you. The Yucatan. Veracruz is right here, okay? This right here, right? This is the chicken leg. This is the bottom of the chicken leg. This is the bottom of North America, right? Mexico is part of it. There's the plate boundary, eh? Hey. All right. This is moving faster than all this, eh? Okay. Hey. You got to be Canadian to talk about that. 2.6 right there. That's for real, everybody. South Dakota did have a banger, right? At the same latitude as what? Stanley, Idaho. What? Oh boy. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well.
Okay. Guess what? We're gonna just wait till we get down here a little bit farther.
All right. We'll get there. Okay. Fox Islands out there in the middle of the Aleutians, right in the middle, right in the stinking middle, 6.8. Chile, Tarapaca, Chile, down there in the central part of Chile, 6.3. We have new pressure moving north. Boom, 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 boom. August, Chile, Atacama in the northern section, 6.9. Boom. God bless America. The DR, oh my God, the Caribbean plate gets pummeled with a 7.5.
This was the last big tsunami in the Caribbean.
Wow. One of the worst disasters that hit the country. The earthquake caused few deaths. However, major tsunami left 1,700 people dead. Many homes were destroyed. Wow.
So see, from 43 to now 46, she's come all the way across from the 7 PR all the way across to the DR.
Yeah. Wow. And then it came back another one, 7.0, 4 days later. Oh, man. This was an aftershock from the other. Oh, my land. The DR. Central America, everybody. The plate boundary between the North American plate, the Atlantic, which divides Africa, North America, and the Caribbean plate. Triple junction, anybody? Solomon Islands. That's north of Vanuatu, east of PNG, everybody, in Santa Cruz Islands, east. Then you got Fiji. Hello. Hey, what? Fiji, 7.0. And this is shallow or 7.0 for Fiji. Right? Hey. Argentina, Santiago del Estero province, 7.2. That's inland. Hey. Here we go. Hey, look here. We just had this quake, a 7.7, less than a month ago.
Yeah. And this one is in the exact same region as where we had.
Same area. 8.0, 7.8. Bang, bang. Two huge, massive quakes. Inland. Where? Okay. Follow Java, right? Follow Sumatra. Straight up through the Andaman Sea, right up into Burma. Boom. Myanmar. Crazy. Huge quakes. Two of them. 8.0, 7.8. Probably 2.8s, tell you the truth. Oh boy. Watching out. I know what's coming. 7.2, Australia, New Guinea. Fiji comes in with a 7. New Guinea again, 7.8. That means pressure pushing up. What? Pushing north and westward, pushing Sumatra, pushing Java, pushing right into that Burma. And guess what? It's also pushing north. I'm just telling you. Peru on the eastern side of the Cocos Plate, which is also connected to the Pacific Plate and the Antarctic Plate, pushing north. All right, now we're in October. Kamchatka, the diagonal from Peru, the diagonal from Chile, right?
Go right straight across.
Kamchatka, 6.5, 6.8. So I mean 6.3, sorry. The DR comes back with a 7. Holy smoke olas. 3 massive quakes. Fiji comes back with a 6.8, super deep. Bolivia. I don't know where the hell. Oh, that's Central America. That's in the armpit, right? Yeah. South America, sorry. Vanuatu, 6.8. Kamchatka comes back with a 6.5. There's Unimak again. What the heck is going on with Unimak? A 6.5. Unimak, Alaska. So the Pacific is being shoved underneath Kamchatka. Eh? Yeah. Japan just went through all kinds of hell because the maritime continent shoving up through Taiwan, shoving up through Philippines, shoving up through Guam, all centering on Japan. You know, Honshu got just wiped out. Hokkaido at the very north of Japan got pummeled, right? The islands all around Japan were just rocking and rolling, whether it's from a nuclear bomb or whether it's the earth is saying, knock it off. I'm going to spank you. Yeah. Stuff is going on. And China's responding because all that pressure into Japan. And then Kamchatka's responding because the Pacific Ocean is being shoved northwest underneath it. So Kamchatka's been banging really hard. Then we get into November. The Adrenal Islands again. A 7.0. The Pacific is sliding. You can bet that in a 7.0, something's moving about 17 feet. 15 to 18 feet on a 7.0. It's only 25 depth. So think about it. If the Pacific Ocean is moving at 7 to 12 inches a year, and you get a 7, you think a huge portion of it just moved 15 feet? What do you think is going on in Kamchatka? Yeah, the Pacific Ocean is diving underneath it. And you just saw Kamchatka, 6.5, Kamchatka, 6.3. We've seen other Kamchatkas, right? Early on, it was from the year before or this year. It was from the year before. Getting banged really, really stinking hard. Right? Tonga. Right next to where Fiji is. Right above New Zealand. Right? And just south of Samoa, 6.9. The Banda Sea, Indonesia, right? Banda Sea, boof, 6.5. That's next to Java, or just south of it, right? No, that'd be west of it, just north. It's above Timor, right? Tonga again, very deep, 265 depth of kilometers, 6.9, another 7. So 2 7s in Tonga in November, a 7.8 in Peru. 1,400 people died. Crazy. Now we get into December 1946. North of Taiwan, which is Japanese islands, today. Then east of Taiwan, right? 6.8. What's that tell you? The Philippine plate's moving like crazy right now. Moving north. Fiji slipped again, 580 depth at a 6.5. Here's Honshu. Hello. Boom. Huge quake. Right? What happened? Oh, yeah. Taiwan.
That's the last time it went off.
Yep.
46.
1946.
Went off in 44.
Japan. Huge, massive quake. Right? Get this. Not only did this thing move at an 8.3, the Kuril, which is above Japan, moved at a 7 or a 6.9. On top of that, the Rat Islands, which is the Aleutians, halfway through, right, moved at a 6.5, all in the same time period. Yep. So the Pacific Ocean just slid. How far do you think it slid? Well, if a 7 can move something at 15 to 18 feet, a 7.3 can move it from 17 to 20 feet. What do you think a 7, a 6.5, and an 8.3 is going to move? The entire plane, the entire 4,000 miles of the Pacific Ocean. It just slid under North America. The North American plate. It just slid. Huge, massive. And it didn't do it one time. It did it, 1944? We're talking 2 years ago?
Yeah. And
right?
End of 46.
And this is the end of 46.
And we had Idaho have 2 6s in between these.
Yeah. And Idaho's in the mix, right? Greece is in the mix. Turkey's in the mix. Vanuatu's going like ball ass crazy.
We had the Caribbean.
PNG is going nuts. I mean, huge.
America.
Right? So we got Japan popping, Vanuatu popping,
Alaska,
PNG popping,
Aleutians.
The maritime continent, Java and
Japan,
Sumatra,
Kurils.
right? All of this moving, just being shoved, massively being shoved.
Southwest Pacific from Fiji, Tonga, all the way over.
Right, and it began
Burma, India.
It began with the Sandwich Islands pushing up on the. This is where we saw it, the Sandwich Islands and pushing up on South America, and then it went west. As it went west, it nailed New Zealand, it nailed Fiji, it nailed Samoa, it nailed Tonga, it nailed Vanuatu. Vanuatu didn't know what to do it, so it just kept being nailed. Then it nailed PNG. It nailed Sumatra or Java. It nailed Sumatra. It nailed Burma. It nailed up there in where the tallest mountain is, right? Way up there, right? And it nailed the Guam. It nailed Taiwan. It nailed all the islands that leading north into Japan. It nailed the shit out of Japan. And it pushed into China, right? And then it pushed in through the Kamchatka, right? And it pushed in all the entire Aleutian islands. It pushed through Alaska several times. huge quakes. Even Canada on the West Coast felt it. The East Coast of Canada, Baffin Bay, New York City, right? The Caribbean plate rocked and rolled like a monster, right? That was Cuba. There was the DR. It was Puerto Rico. It was the islands down there in all of these just freaking banging hard. Central America was going nuts, coming up through Chile, just going boom, 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 boom. Peru, bang, 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 bang. Panama, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Salvador, Southern Mexico, California, Idaho, Haida not Haida, but Vancouver Island. The whole shift moving over a 4-year period that we just went through. Well, actually, that was
43 to 46.
Okay, 43 to 40. 3 years.
40.
We only covered 3 years. This is why when we're talking about these things, we look at the history, and we've been staying just on the for the last couple of years, we've been staying just all on the side, and now we're spreading out.
Ending tonight, I want to say what happened in 2020, because
all right,
people have been following the stuff in 2020. It's fairly recent, so people remember it. So in 2020, you had the 6.5 in Idaho. Well, earlier that year, 2020, you had the 7.7 in the Caribbean. You had a big quake swarm 2019 and 2020, Puerto Rico. So this is all we're looking at a modern time period comparing to what was going on in this one we just looked at, 43 to 46. Well, after that 6.5 in Idaho in 2020, well, right after that, within like a couple months, that's when the Sandpoint quake started. So there was a
that's our last 8 was in Sandpoint, right?
Yeah, which was in 2021, but it actually started shaking there in 2020 because there was like a high 7 in July, and then
Peru popped too. Yeah, Peru was popping.
It went like October. There was another quake there near Sandpoint, which was another 7. And then the next year, 2021, it had the 8.2. So see, it's kind of doing the same thing. And 2021 was when we had the last 3 8s. We haven't had any 8 since then. And it was Kermadec, South Sandwich Islands,
and Alaska. Right.
So like it was kind of doing the same thing, 2018 to 21, just not as crazy as what it was in 43 to 46. But it's pretty interesting when you start looking into where these quakes are happening and how the same patterns repeat over and over again. Like we were doing this trying to figure out Idaho, right? But now we're seeing, and we've actually done the last 2 Nankai trough quakes as well, both in 44 and 46.
So what we've done here for you this evening is we've been over the last couple of years, we were just taking this side of the Pacific, right? We're showing you how the pressure moves up and runs north, right, along this edge. And we've been showing you the pressure that moves from Fiji all the way through the stands, in through the maritime continent, into Turkey, and then comes out through either Spain, or it ends up in Iceland, or even in Svalbard up in here in the Greenland Sea, right? Here's the Baffin Bay, by the way, everybody. Okay. And then it responds out here as a result. Like we've got a couple just south of Australia, 6.2, right, that happened today, as well as a 4.8. And then we also have the Mid-Indian Ridge at 5.5. And now we see an earthquake up here in a Sulawesi. We also see it in the Timor region, right? And here's the Banda Sea you've heard about, right? Here's the Flores Sea you've heard about. Here's the Java Sea you've heard about, right? And up here you got Nicobar, the Andaman Sea. These mountain chain of these islands runs all the way into Mandalay. Here's Burma. That's that earthquake that we talked about in in the 40s, right? That just freaking happened again.
Yeah, in the same spot.
Right. And so, for us that watch this, and then we watch all this activity that's been going on at a lesser level, but PNG, oh man, it's non-freaking stop right now. But because we see and we report these things every day, we don't really get to take a hold on a second. We don't really get to rise above and step out of the picture and look at it because we're inside of it, because it's happening all around us. But when we take a space view and watch what's going on,
we're only interested usually in our particular area or our particular region or
a particular time. Yeah. So if you take a step back and push away all the data and take it back and look and try to look at the overall picture, so to speak, you will see what we just showed you tonight. The incredible patterns that persist across our planet. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to bring to you, is a different perspective as to why earthquakes are happening. And now we talk about all the lineaments that they happen along these lineaments. Yeah, look at Fiji, PNG, Sulawesi. There should be something that will fill in here in India or Burma. We'll see something happen in the stands, or maybe even the Caucasus, but it'll eventually end up either in one of the islands out here, or moving up that way, or the pressure will move out here to the triple junction. And if it does, then we got to watch what's going on in North America, right in through the central part. Generally, when it comes out here, it ends up over on this side. All right. Now we just see, because that's what we're watching. When you start to see it more and more and more again, bang, bang, bang. And we should see Iceland work up, or what's this one right here in the middle? Svalbard, right? This is Svalbard. This is the other one. I forget what the little ones are called, but in between Iceland and Svalbard. Jan Mayen. Jan Mayen's got to go, or Greenland Sea again. USGS is not reporting it, but there are plenty of quakes that happen in Norway, Sweden, and Finland. They're all small, but we still see them. We also see earthquakes in down here, Romania, right? We see them in.
You could probably find stuff happening all these years on Iceland, Jan Mayen, Svalbard if you went to dig. But
right.
Of course, around World War II time, they were more concerned with German
the war.
Yep. Sinking ships in the Atlantic when they were about what the Mid-Atlantic.
All right. But anyway, so how long? We're an hour and 54 minutes in. Hey, we did pretty good tonight, even after our delay. And Canuck, you have anything you want to close with and kind of summarize, or?
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say to summarize, for West Coast North America to get pounded with big quakes, you need a lot of movement happening on the North American plate and a bunch of other plates. So you have to have Pacific, you have to have South America going, you got to have the Caribbean going, you got to have the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, Eastern North America going too, to make the really big quakes on the West Coast of North America. So that's my summary for tonight. So we should be able to see a lot of stuff happening bigly before we have to worry about major quakes on the west coast of North America. So now the debate is, when are we going to get a big one, which is like 8 or so that's what we're kind of trying to, from studying all this stuff, if we can figure out how it's coming.
Yeah, and I think Lake Girl's got a interesting thing. We don't normally do this, but let's close with a word of prayer. That God, we ask that everybody who's listening to this story, this presentation this evening, that they're not filled with fear, but they're filled with hope, that they can understand how the system works, and that they can lean to you for guidance and knowing how to prepare for in the event that they are in a more dangerous or more susceptible area and or building or the like. And we ask that in your son's name. And if you have trouble with understanding how to prepare, go ahead and shoot us a line at jsldiscussion@gmail. It's jsldiscussion@gmail, and you'll be able to get some help from any one of us here on twitch.tv/Joe Slick Live. And remember, we do have a morning report that's Monday through Friday. And I think, let me see, is it this one here? Yeah. Hold on, let me see if I can. It's on Twitch. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, it's over on Twitch. Let me. I can't even hear.
To summarize it even further for tonight, we're only at low 4s in Idaho.
Let me see if I can't get it to happen for those out on YouTube and on.
So I'm not going to get super worried about the West Coast unless we start getting 6s in Idaho.
Right.
Because then it's not going to be good. Based
on
past history.
All right, see if I can make this work for all of us. Dun, 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 dun. Hang in there, everybody. As you see, my that might work. Yeah. Well, I hope you all saw that. Let me kill that reverb there. There's only one way I can put it on there and get it for you. Had a great time tonight. Canuck, thank you again. As always, I really appreciate you, brother. Love you. And I hope to have many more of these kind of things because I have a blast with you. And with that, I'm going to play our song again here because I have such a great time doing it. Let's see what happened to it. Hey. Anyway. Hold on a second. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Canuck. Good night.
Good night, everybody.